Good morning everyone and welcome to today's live stream. Today we're doing something a little bit differently. We're going to be carving three-dimensional shapes. Let's hope we have some fun whilst we're doing it. And as always, if you've got questions, please pop them in the chat. Also really excited that got dual camera set up, so hopefully you'll be able to see a bit more detail of what I'm actually working on today. If you have questions after this video has gone live or you didn't get a chance to ask what you wanted, please put them in the comments of the video once I'm done. Sorry, the camera is so far away from me. Hi Simone, thank you so much for joining in today. And also exciting news, we'll be using rasps for the first time today. Okay, so we're going to be carving this, not the entire dog toy, but just the knot at the end there. I find it's always good if you can have a three-dimensional representation if you're carving something 3D. So we'll be working with this today. In the handout or the instructions, thank you, Cynthia, I think. Sorry, the computer's so far away from me today. I can hardly read what comments are coming up, but thank you for putting them there. I should be wearing my glasses really. It did say in the original handout, the CarveTech emailed that we would be using American walnut. I didn't have as much of that as I thought. So instead, today we'll be using just a piece of cypress. So nice and easy and accessible for everyone to get a hand of. On my website, hang on 1 second. On my website, there is this, here we go, is that gonna work? There is this template that shows you the 1, 2, 3, 4 sides of the knot we're going to be carving today and next month as well. So please print that out, blow this up as big as you need and trace it onto your block of wood. For ease, marking out today and just to make it a bit easier on my head, we're just going to be, I've just marked out 2 sides, my piece of cypress, so you can see I've got one view of the knot there, roll it round, and I've drawn another view there. Oh, sorry, I got one question. Sorry, Olivia, I missed the name of the wood. Yep, this is just cypress. Just regular old cypress pine. I have in the past carved garden ornaments from, it was really nice, but just a cypress veranda post from the local hardware store. So if you can find something without knots, as you can see, this one's pretty straight grained. So let's hope this all goes to plan, as we always hope. All right, so I'm largely going to be showing you how to cut out your shape if you don't have a bandsaw. If I was in my workshop and not coming to you live from my kitchen once again, I would be using bandsaw and I would cut that shape out, flip it, cut that side out. But because I'm not in my workshop, we're going to be using hand tools and doing it the old-fashioned way. So normally I would face the template towards myself, but today I'm going to face it out so you guys can see what's happening. Just going to clamp it in my vise there. Now, because I'm working to this edge here and that pattern of the knot that I've drawn on that side, just take a saw. This is just a little Japanese saw. You can see that it does have a back, so I can only get so deep with that. And then for sections that are too deep with that one, I will then switch over to my very rusty and very much in need of a new blade backless saw, so you can go as deep as you like with that one there. But it's not as sharp as you can tell by looking at it. Okay, so I'm just going to saw straight down and I'm coming to the edges of my drawing there. So I've done my low point, now I'm going to do the next high point of that knot. Like I said, normally I would have this facing me so I wasn't constantly poking my head over the top. big one, right the way through here. So I'll probably get most of the way and have to swap saws. Yep, just made it. Do another one sort of about here. Keep going. That's as deep as that saw will let me go, but we're pretty much there already. And now the same up this end. So I hope you can see this on my very fancy 2-camera setup. So you can see, I hope you can see, I've I've sawed down to roughly low points and high points along that edge. Then I'll flip it, I'll do the same on the other side. Oops, too far, doesn't matter. You see that sweeps a bit, so I've got another high point up here. Now if this was a shape that I was very precious about, say it was an animal or something, so if it was slightly, you know, it'd be very recognisable if it was slightly wrong, I might do a lot more cuts in. But if something skews off wrong here, it's not really going to affect me too badly. Excuse me, I'm really getting a lot of this dust. It smells nice though. Another. I think add one here as well. So now you can see I've got my first side of that, all my cuts coming up to my pencil lines. Now I could turn this on end here now and split down like that and get my shape, but I would only have my shape visible from one view or one side. So to be really clever, hopefully, now I'm going to flip it and cut this shape out. So open this up. So now I'm working to this plane here. I'm gonna, just for ease, I'm gonna follow my same cut lines, but remember they're not cut into this section, but they will be. Now, going down until my saw hits that pencil line there. My pencil line there. Now for using the splitting technique, the straighter the grain tipper, the better. Like a lot of the carving I do anyway, the straighter the better. Yeah, I might have taken that one too far. This one. So just to that top pencil line there. Oh, excuse me. And so that's got a little kick at the end, so. So now I've done, it's starting to look a bit complicated, but I've done to this edge here, flip it. Now I'm going to be cutting to this top pencil line around this side. I hope this is making sense for all of you. I'm providing riveting viewing, just watching me saw away. Coming down to that pencil line. Quite sharp, so I'll put in an extra one here. I've got a low point here. Okay. So you can see it's looking quite a mess at the moment. We're going to be left with sort of this profile and this profile, hopefully, at the same time. So next step, we want to stand up in the vise. And if I didn't mention it before, my grain direction's running like that, so I'm going to be splitting down my grain. I can get rid of that big saw. I didn't need it after all, which is nice. Just keep that one in case. So now I want to be splitting out, I've confused myself, this chunk of wood here. In order to do that, I'm not going to start out here, because don't forget, this cut going that way only runs that deep. That cut there only runs that deep there. So I'm going to take off small sections and sort of ease my way into it. So I'm just using a large Feel 530 there. You could just use a chisel as well, but I prefer gouge. With a solid mallet. You see it's splitting along like grain, but it's stopping where we did all our cuts. Now I'll be a bit more confident with this one. Too confident, I think. I think it's tried to kick in beyond where I've cut. Yep. That's trying to split beyond where my cut, so I'm just going to come in and just help it a little. There we go. Because if I split beyond the cut, and again that was the cut coming this way, then it would might just keep going and following that grain right through. That we can split a bit. Now I'll be splitting this edge here off. It's much smaller. Now you can see how they're splitting out like that. That's because that last edge bit of grain there is actually kicking out. So the tool and the split is following that, but that's all right. So now I'm going to be splitting out this piece. Try to go with a bit more bravery. Might be pushing it, but I'll try it. Yep. It's wanting to kick in too far. this next piece, if I start here, it's going to split out that whole face. So I'll bring it up here. That one's very keen and is going right through the others. So I'll just let it. Now this one I'm going to try angling in a bit. As you can see, you probably can't see actually, I've got a little knot here that's diverted everything away. Oh, we got a new question. Ah, good morning, thank you. Oh, there's something else. Can I ask what the benefits of using a Japanese saw? Benefits of using a Japanese saw. I like them because they're very light, they're very nimble, and when the blade is done with, basically, like that other one I should have changed, this one's due for a change, you can sort of just, I won't do it now because it probably won't behave, but whack it on the back of the bench like that and snap it out and just replace the blade without having to replace the whole handle and everything as well. You can see when it does chip, it's quite fun when it's behaving. Take some of this off. And obviously some wood will split far easier than others. I'll just try this. Now, from our side view, which I don't know if you guys can see, probably not, to try it, because right now we're sort of quite a chunky shape, I'm going to come from the top, and I've got my saw marks here so I can see how deep it has gone. A bit more. So whilst if I was in my workshop I would be using bandsaw, ideally for something this size. I have done things that are too awkward and complicated or don't fit within the throat of the bandsaw, and I will split them out like this. Like, it does just take a little bit longer, but great whilst you're setting up. I'm just going to jump out of screen because I don't bring a pencil close enough, which is silly. I want to mark just on the end here that I won't be carving my faces, so I'm going to call that my front and my side so I know what I'm looking at. Now that I'm rapidly removing all signs of anything. Now I'm not going to split out the whole thing because I still want my vise to be able to have something to grab onto. But, so I'm getting one side of the knot, and then I'm going to try and angle in and remove some of this chunk so I can carve the other side of the knot as well. Now, if you do find this a little bit confusing, just do it with one side to split out. It did, in all honesty, take me a bit of time to get my head around this. Sorry, I can see your questions popping up, but I'm having such a hard time reading the screen. I'll carve a bit and I'll run closer and have a proper read and then jump back, I think might be our best plan. Splitting out the back. If you're feeling like it looks very strange, you're right. I've got a little edge. Nope, gone way too far there. So you can see we've got quite quickly steps. And if you're doing a larger rounder shape, I actually find it much faster and more fun than using a saw. So now I'm just going to put this in this way. Whilst that's still got a bit of squareness so I can grip it, I'm just going to try and knock out the ones this side of the knot. It may or may not work. I reckon that's as far as I can get without bashing my gouge on the vise. So that's all looking a bit strange at the moment, but we do also have all these depth guides provided to us by the saw. And this is where the saw rasp is really going to come in handy. There. So if anyone's done one of my Rocking Horse classes, you'll know we use saw rasp an awful lot. But for those of you that haven't, it's a tool I use sort of non-stop. It's unlike a traditional rasp in the sense that it's like woven hacksaw blades, if you can see that. You've got a rough side and a fine side. Now this one is a Shinto saw rasp. That's S-A-W-R-A-S-P. I nearly always only ever use the rough side. And you can see, instead of having barbed teeth like a traditional rasp that can clog up, this one's not ripping the fibres of your timber, it's actually cutting the fibres. So now I'm just coming along and working down until I remove my saw lines. So here I can see I've still not come down deep enough because I've still got a tiny saw line left. But now I've removed that saw line from the top. I think I'm going to try splitting that a bit more for some speed. Yeah, that was looking like a bit too much to rasp off. If anyone's got any questions, pop them up now because I'm going to do this side and then come closer to my computer screen and have a read and an answer for you. Now I can see I've got to get that depth, so I'm actually quite a way off. Coming a little deep there. Doesn't matter, the knot will just be a fraction smaller than I had originally planned. So now that I've nearly got that saw line removed, I don't know if you can notice, but the teeth run that way. So I'm only applying pressure in the forward stroke. When I come back, I'm just gliding and I'm not applying any pressure. That noise is at whole workbench vibrating. This is probably looking very rough and ready, and you're probably thinking, what on earth is she on about? But trust me, we will get there. Take this one down a bit. Now that one's not as deep, that next cut there, so I'm give this side a quick rasp. So you can see that's my rasped surface. Down the edges there, that's the cuts that we did from this side. So they still need to be split out a bit more, and on that side as well. But let me just put that in the vise and I will come around and answer your questions. Just hang on 1 second. I don't think you'll be able to see me, but you'll be able to hear me. Thank you for everyone saying good morning. From Fix It Fingers, they are also a thinner curve and I find better control for cutting on the pull stroke. That is definitely true about the Japanese saw. Where can you buy the saw rasp from? I buy my saw rasps from Carbatech. And I'm back. Cool, so now we're going to be splitting out this side a bit. I've got my gauge on the back of the wood here for how deep I need to go. Almost there. This is why it helps if you can have a three-dimensional representation, because it can start to look a bit strange. Like, oh my god, what am I doing? Might just try. Actually, I'm going to come in with the rasp again. I'm going to start rounding out my back edge here now. Not really looking like much, I'm sure you're thinking, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that. But let's get going. So that's a knot there, the tail of the knot. The other tail, we need to split up this piece here. Getting there slowly, slowly. I'm going to split out a bit along the back here now, because we haven't really touched that side much, or at all. I just ask you to have confidence that this will be a knot. Too deep there, does not matter. We'll leave that bit. I'm really going to try and remove some of this section here because that's the tail, the other side of my knot. So that chunk, all of that needs to be removed. It's still just square enough for me to clamp in the vise. If you didn't want to do this method and you don't have a bandsaw, you could always use a coping saw, but why not give stuff a bash with a mallet when you can? Just do this top edge a little bit. Now it's starting to get a bit precarious clamping that in, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, so really not looking at all like that at the moment, but you can see we've got our knot there, we've got our tails either side. I'm leaving a lot of that weight on, so that's quite flimsy, so that I've still got enough sort of strength in that timber to really bash all this about. Back to my handy template that you guys can find on my website under the classes page. I am just going to quickly redraw the knot. I think I had it that way. Mark that so I don't get confused again. Trying to draw super fast for you all, which might be a really silly idea. So I've not drawn much, as you can see, but I have this shape here, which is that shape there. Put that back in a vise. I'm going to keep that template where I can see it because we're carving a complicated shape, so I'll probably have to keep looking at it. I'm going to use a mallet to give me slightly bit more control. Little brass one there, that's a bit of tape. Coming around this edge. And then let's try split uphill, that other corner off. That was bound to happen, wasn't it? Just push everything over in the vise. I'll keep that up, but I'll rasp that down. So that corner. That's that away. Give myself my low point there. Just come in with my sword again. And just so in today's stream, I'm just roughing out, and then next month, just gonna, gosh, I've got mess everywhere. Anyone who knows me wouldn't be surprised. I can see a lot more questions are popping up. I will rough out the top of this and then come and answer a few. That saw rasp really works. Lost a mallet. And as always, you'll have better results on a bench that doesn't vibrate. Starting to get that shape. I've got way too much here, but I might just leave it for clamping purposes. I'm going to try and shape this underside of that knot. There now, I've just seen a bunch of questions, so I will pop around, read those, and come straight back. Hello, just wondering why you haven't lined your vice jaws. This is my traveling vice that I take to trade shows with me, and to be honest, normally I carve rocking horse legs in this and it doesn't move, so laziness is the long and short answer why I haven't bothered lining this one. Something I really like about these rasps so is that corner edge. I can really dig that in. And cut away. When you're carving three-dimensional shapes, there's a lot of flipping required. So you can see we've got knot out the other side. I hope that was a good representation of just what's happening in there. This section here, I can see, actually maybe that'll fall out like that. Ignore that section, I think. I'm going to try and remove some of that because that's really disrupting my planning. Cool. Just having a stop and a think, as you do. Gonna work at removing this side now. That's a deep saw line, so I will probably split that. Hope I don't go too deep. Now, I do feel like making this look much harder than it is. So please keep that in mind, that it's not actually a terribly difficult process. Perhaps I should have picked a simpler shape for all of us. That's all right. I'm going to rasp back now, blend that down. Material this rasp removes. So you can see I'm starting to get my shape. Obviously, pencil's gone. Here we go. Obviously, all this section needs to come out, but again, I'm leaving that for strength. Now I'm going to look at my template, and I'm going to look at my real knot, because of course we have layers happening. So probably won't be talking either, because I think I need to concentrate. Still concentrating. Your screen hasn't frozen. So you can see this piece of timber here needs to be lower because it comes under this. So that's just what I'm working towards at the moment. We'll get a bit of depth in this one today. Cool, so I want to lower the height of that bit there. And then this is a high point here. This is low. But this tail here is high. I should have brought a texter. I made that a lot easier, but that's all right. So I'm going to start by taking my low bits down. This section needs to be low. This section needs to be low. So into the vise we go. Hope you can see that. Oh, something else with saw rasps is a lot of people, if you're not used, because you are putting pressure with one hand always on one side, and it does still have teeth. So if you're not used to holding tools all day, it can sort of snag your skin quite a bit. But I'm going to use that edge there. That is essentially one straight, nearly straight hacksaw blade. So I can cut in with that. So I'm cutting down. I hope you can see. Up so you can have a look. There you go. You see I'm really cutting in that edge down there. Just using the side of that rasp. I hardly ever use the what do you call it? The fine side as well. Just putting my knot there so I can keep looking at it as I'm going. This little section. So now I'm doing this bit here, which tucks in under that back edge. Again, I'm really cutting, using that tool to cut. Again, I'm only applying pressure on that downstroke because the teeth go like that. This little bit here needs to tuck in. Of course, we've got that other loop. And this piece is a low piece here. But obviously that I can't get my saw in just to remove that little bit. So I'm just going to reposition that. Hope it stays nice and still for us. Got a large V-tool, a number 15.8 there for you all to see. Just going to notch out this little. I'm not going for a lot of depth and detail at the moment. I'm really just trying to get the shape roughed out because it is a complicated shape. And once we've got a bit of that under and over happening, even if it's only very, very shallow, it makes it a lot easier for me to understand what's happening. So now I'm using a 7F10. I think when I sent out Carbotech the information, I only sent the number 5s. You could use a number 510. I'm just using this guy because he's fish-tailed, so he'll fit in here. See? Move that. I still got some more questions. Bear with me one moment. Let me come around. What have we got? Oh, thanks Fix It Fingers for putting links everywhere. That's brilliant. Can saw rasps be sharpened? Look, I'm going to say no, but I don't actually know that for a fact. That's just what I believe to be true. Somebody might turn around to tell you otherwise. I use it almost daily. I get a solid 12 months plus out of each saw rasp, so they last a really long time. I keep my old ones as well, because even though they might not be cutting super sharp and technical, they are brilliant. I do a lot of I used to do a lot of rocking horse restoration, and quite often you didn't know what was lurking under things, so it was great to have something you didn't care if it hit a nail or a staple that you could sort of just go through. So keep your old ones as well. But yeah, they're also, gosh, I don't know, haven't bought one for a while, maybe like $40 or something, so they're not a price, you know, that you don't want to be replacing them at either. Now I'm just going to do some more thinking. You'll probably get used to this. So that piece. I'm wiggling that to get a lot of control. Those of you who are following along month by month, sort of trying to build up on the skills we use each time. And if you went off and did the grain direction video and tried carving your own donut shape, this will be a brilliant exercise for you. And for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, search Woodcarving with Olivia O'Connor grain direction. It's a really good video on grain direction in carving. Let me just do some of that. So this piece tucks behind this piece. So it's shoulder there. Coming in with my rasp. This piece tucks under this piece, so I'm just going to lower that a bit. And this is just ordinary old cypress, so nothing special that I'm carving. Remove the top of that. This piece goes behind here. I've got to concentrate too much to talk to you guys. But luckily, ice and my desk and the tools are making a lot of noise for us. So you can see we are starting to get some shape happening. Now I just want to add a little bit to my top edge before we finish up today. So this piece of rope curls around and behind this piece. So let's take that which means I need to remove all of that. So start with that. I found this is called carving in the round, when you carve every side of a piece, whereas previously we have done relief carving, where you sort of carve down into something. It's more of a 2D plane. I found with carving in the round, if you try and get one side looking good and then flip, you will only have one side that looks good. You need to sort of do a bit, shift, and constantly keep moving around it. Go from side to side to side. As you can see, that whole chunk there needs to also come out. It is a really fast tool if you really let it cut, and I'm not using much effort at all. So that comes like that. Now this piece is way too big. I'll knock that out some more. Get rid of this section now. The tool that I would love is one of these, but sort of bent round in almost a half circle. I think that'd be brilliant. So if anyone sees one, let me know. Now that's coming down behind that a bit. Not going for full detail because I'm going to finish it off next month. But so then this piece comes down. Got to remove a lot of weight just here. Spin that around. I'm wiggling that for control. I'll show you guys, I can show you close-ups now. So see those little lines in that? As I'm wiggling, each one is a separate cut. It gives you a lot of control over what you're doing. And it's great for sort of getting out of tricky situations. Like if you hit a bit of tough grain or you need a lot of control. But you'll notice I'm always anchoring on my work. That's too scoopy. So I'm just going to now use a number 512. Hope you can see that. 5s are my favourite sweep, pretty much. Find them really versatile. And of course, a 512, the 5 is how scooped it is, and the 12 is 12 millimeters wide. sure I wouldn't blame any of you if at the start of this video you thought that is no way gonna take on characteristics of a knot, but you can see we are slowly getting there. Just gonna move that. Be really cool if in our month in between streams, if you guys had an attempt of this yourself, or of any other carving. And if you do, I'd love it if you tagged me on Facebook or Instagram and I can see what you've been up to. I think that'd be really cool. You can find me on both platforms at Olivia O'Connor Carving. And the downloadable PDF is at oliviaoconnor.com.au/classes. Scroll all the way to the bottom of that page. Keep scrolling, and I'll be right down the bottom there. Like I said, don't get too fixated on one side. It's really easy to do so, and I have to keep reminding myself to not. So one side, excuse me, starting to take shape. Starting to get some shape on this top side. Just going to remove some of this corner. I'm going to refer to my patterns that you guys have. It's that one there. That's on my website for you. I'm going to look at my knot, get it around the right way, and I'm going to roll them both together so I can see what is supposed to be happening. So it's supposed to go in there, and then flip it over again. Whilst the pattern that you can get off my website is good, it will help. Probably your biggest help will be having like an actual knot. And this is just a dog toy, so just any bit of rope really that you can tie up. Right, no more talking, I'm concentrating. I'm just going to get a tiny little bit of shape onto this back side there. Tell that knot to behave in that position. And then I'll show you a couple of things with saw rasp. Answer any last questions, and we'll probably call it good for today. So if you've got questions, now is the time to start popping them in the chat. Out for that. Follow this. Need a bit more grunt. Now that will turn into that tail there. I won't lie to you, this is doing my head in a little bit. Now here I can't actually anchor my hand on the work, so I'm anchoring my elbow into my hip instead. Not as good, but it will give you some balance. I'm not going to do too much on this side because I'm starting to see double. edge here. Get quite a wiry piece of grain. I don't know if you guys can hear that. And then this side becomes my lower side. Cool, so I think that is enough knot carving today. I've shown you guys how to rough out the shape with just a saw, a mallet and a big gouge if you don't have access to a bandsaw. But again, if you had access to a bandsaw, I would have just cut out that profile and saved a lot of time. But if you don't, or if you want to make a lot of kindling, that's how you do it. I'll get that out of the way. And next month we will be finishing this knot off. But just quickly, I want to show you something that I really like about the saw rasp. This is just another piece of cypress. See, I've got a real daggy bit where I had a knot in there. That'll be really tough. You saw how well the rasp cut through like the nice clean wood. So I just wanted to show you. Because it's such, let me get everything else out of the way. Such a versatile tool. You see that? That's just... You can hear it's tougher, but it's still going. So that's cut through a knot, and I've also got a scrap of American walnut. Reasonably hard wood. I'll just show you how it does cut through that as well. Like it's not just a soft wood tool. There you go. All right, if anyone has any questions, now's the time to put them in. If you aren't watching this live, or if you think of questions later, please pop them in the comments of this video and I will check them regularly and get back to you there. It's a lot easier for me to kind of keep them all together that way. As always, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could like this video. It's good. Hopefully it means they'll continue happening for all of us. Positive comments are always welcome, so thank you very much. Please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Olivia O'Connor Carving, and it'd be awesome if you could subscribe to this Carvtech YouTube channel. Now I'm gonna run around and answer those last few questions I've seen popping up. Hopefully next month, either I'll wear my glasses or I'll figure something else out, so I'm not having to run around all the time. All right, here we go. Okay, can someone be showing? Oh, thanks everybody. Do I ever use Australian timbers from Linda? Yes, I do. Next month I will bring you in a heron bird I carved out of golden wattle. Australian timbers aren't necessarily renowned for their carving abilities because they're often quite hard, but there are some timbers that are accessible that can be carved really nicely. Thank you to everybody saying thank you. That's really nice of you. I hope you guys did enjoy this. I hope you got something out of it. I definitely enjoyed it. Please tune in second Saturday of April and we will be finishing these knots. All right. Thanks everyone. I hope you have a really great weekend. Bye.